Yo, what's up guys, Universal Mastery. So what I do on my channel is I break down the occult sciences to an extremely practical level so that you can use them and apply them in your day-to-day life and get real, actual results. Now, what I'm going to be talking about in today's video is something that I definitely think you should know if you are going to be going down the road of practicing and studying the occult sciences. Okay, so what I'm going to be talking about in today's video is what are the real dangers of walking down the left-hand path. If you want to know a little bit more about what I'm talking about, then stay tuned. Okay, so the first thing I want to say is definitely make sure you go and you check out my Patreon. On my Patreon, I have exclusive content and I post videos weekly that are not on my YouTube channel. So far, half of those videos are geared towards actual spiritual practices that you can apply and use in your day-to-day life to get real actual results, which I show you and I break down for you how to do them, okay? By performing them myself and teaching you how to do them. So you know exactly how to do it. If you do it right and you do it consistently, you will get results. The other half of the videos are going to be geared towards educational entertainment, which is very similar to a video like this. The video's entertaining, but you're also getting a lot of value out of it. Okay, so in order to gain access to the Patreon, you have to at least be a tier 2 member or up. In order to be a tier 2, it literally costs $9.95 a month, and that's a reoccurring payment. So there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't be able to afford that with the value that I have on there. So as you go up in tiers, the benefits go up as well. I'm gonna let you check that out for yourself. And I wanna give a special shout out to the top tier members of the Patreon. Their names are gonna be mentioned in the parentheses below that link. Okay, so the first thing that I wanna say is if you are new or if you're practicing left-hand practices. So the first thing I wanna say is, what exactly does that mean? What is left-hand practices? Okay, left-hand practices are gonna be essentially clipothic workings. It's gonna be clipothic path working. So you have the Sephiroth and you have the Clipoth. The Clipoth is the shadow side of the tree, which is the darker side of life. Now, first thing that I want to say is that not everyone's going to walk that path. Not everyone is supposed to walk that path, first of all. You have to realize that. Like, literally, in order for Earth to evolve the way it needs to evolve, there has to be a balance. So there's going to be people that are more geared towards the lighter side of things, and then there's going to be people that are more geared towards the darker side of things. My personal path, I walk between both. I walk the middle path. I see value in the light, I see value in the dark, I walk both, but I'm not afraid of the dark and I'm not afraid of the light. Most people are afraid of the dark just because of what they've been told and what they've been indoctrinated to believe. So when you begin, if you are one of those people that is feeling like you're called to walk down the left-hand path to do more so clipothic workings, the first thing that you want to know is that this path is a lot more intense. This path is going to show you things about yourself that you probably didn't want to know or didn't want to see, and it's going to take things away from your life to add new and better things in, things that are going to be more aligned with who you are, things that are going to be more, things that are in your best interest. And a lot of that stuff can be very uncomfortable because you may be holding on to certain things that really aren't in your best interest, and they will be ripped from you. But in the end, if you can make it through that, if you can continue down the path, you'll start to see the value in letting those things go and seeing what comes into your life. Okay, so there's a lot of power, there's a lot of protection that comes from walking down the darker path, and there's a lot of knowledge, okay? That's why it's essentially called the tree of life, which is the lighter side, and the tree of knowledge. Essentially, it's the same tree, it's just different sides of the same tree or different aspects. So if you're really walking the left-hand path, I'm not talking about somebody who's doing a quick spell with a demon, like an Ars Goetic demon, and you do a quick spell to get something you want. That's not what I mean. That's not walking the left-hand path. When I talk about walking the left-hand path and really pursuing this, which most people honestly do not do, and most people aren't doing, is actual path working. So what does that mean? That means that you're working with a spirit that is a darker spirit, a dark force of nature that carries a lot of negative energy, but it also carries a positive in that negative, meaning that negative energy can be alchemized by the practitioner to turn into something that will be valuable for yourself. Ways I can give you examples is sometimes you can take on that energy and you can become immune to it, and you can learn to understand it by coming face to face with it and absorbing it. And so then for the average person, that negative energy would trigger them, and it would cause them to, it would cause them to say certain things or go down certain patterns of thought and feel like they have to attack it. But then, if you're walking down the darker path and you're working with these, essentially destructive energies, spirits, deities that have the potential to be very negative and destructive, a lot of these deities and entities and spirits are going to teach you how to embrace that energy so that you actually understand what it is, so that it no longer moves you the way that it would move the average person, so that you don't get triggered, essentially. So that's just one benefit that you get. But to take it back to the point of this video, what is the dangers of actually walking the left-hand path, actually doing path working, which would be doing daily invocations of these spirits, of these darker deities, the Clipothic deities specifically. And there's also other deities. The interesting thing about it is that there are a bunch of spirits that show very similar characteristics, moving from culture to culture and tradition to tradition. And you'll definitely find the darker side of the spirits, the darker spirits, in the tradition or in the practice of the Clipoth. So when you start to study the Clipothic realms, which means hell, it's the Hebrew Jewish way for hell, meaning of hell, that's where you're going to really tap into these darker deities, and you're going to get an understanding of which ones are known to be the devils and the tricksters of all the different cultures. And when you start to pathwork and do invocations of these deities, let me give you an example. You have Samael, you have Lilith. These are the two spirits, the masculine and the feminine, of this hell or darker left-hand current. If you're actually in this current, you would know that. So it's Samael, it's Lilith, and then there's Cain, their offspring. So that would be the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit on the tree, on the lighter side. And then on the darker side, it's Samael, Lilith, and Cain. And these are completely different energies, okay? Just to throw that out there, they are completely different energies. But because you go down one path, whether it's the darker or the lighter path, doesn't mean that you're not allowed to go down the other path to explore and to learn and to even gain power. That's a trick, and that's a lie that you've been told if you think you have to only choose one, and if you choose one, you're bound to learn. You are a powerful fucking spirit. I need you to understand this. You can walk both paths, and you can integrate both and receive all of the power and walk in the middle, okay? And have an understanding of both paths, which would be almost like gray. That's just funny because I'm wearing a gray shirt. That's almost like gray is also attributed to be the color of the dead. And yeah, I'm not gonna go into that right now. But you could almost call that the middle path, meaning you walk between alive, or I guess you walk between light and dark. And that's like a form of gray. Like you can do whatever you want. You can move in whatever you want. There's a certain freedom to being like the dead. There's a certain freedom to that level of immortality, because that's what that kind of spirit and that mindset comes from. It's like an immortal mindset. Like you can't tell me I can't walk down this path, and you can't tell me I can't walk down this path. I'm already immortal. I'm one with the dead. I'm one with all the ancients. My heritage comes from the ancient past, and I'm here in the present as an ancient, and I'm here in the future as an ancient, and I'm being guided towards exactly what I need in life and exactly what I came here to do and what I want. Yeah, but I'm not going to go into too much depth about that, because that's not what this video is about. But The moral of the story is there are two different paths, and they do have completely different experiences, completely different perceptions, and the alchemies that you'll receive on both of these paths is completely different, even though there is similarities. Now, when you walk the left-hand path, which I find to be the most potent aspect of both of these paths, meaning the left-hand path, you're going to find some of the deepest levels of alchemy and transformation. You're going to find some of the deepest levels of power in that path. And that's a fact, because light came from darkness. A good way to explain this is if you look up into the sky at night, all you see is space. It's all dark. And there's stars, which are light, but they're in space. Space is the background, what holds all of it. If you close your eyes, you're in darkness. When you go to sleep, you go into darkness. The astral plane is dark by its nature. So light literally comes from darkness. So the Qliphoth is more ancient, is older than the Sephiroth. So that's why you're going to find more power in that path. But that doesn't mean that there's not path in the Sephiroth, or there's not power in the Sephiroth as well. There definitely is, which is why it's important to integrate both and see both perspectives and stay in the middle as a balanced, very ancient, powerful being, and pull the power from both and operate in the way that you need to operate to receive the most power. Very similar to the character of Jon Snow from Game of Thrones, who does what he needs to do that is in the best interest for him and what he feels for his loved ones. And then the same thing for like Achilles from the movie Troy. He has no master. Even though he fights for one side, he's not fighting for that side. He's fighting for his people, and he's fighting for himself. Very similar to that. So this is the type of mindset and this type of archetype, the being that you want to be when you pursue magic. And you once again, you do want to be aware that there's two sides. Now, let me wrap this up. So the left-hand path, when you go down the left-hand path, part of that experience is going to be fully indulging yourself in that magical system, in that path. Let's say it's the Qliphoth. This is one of the most potent ways you can access the darker left-hand path. You can access it through other traditions because every tradition has deities that are known as the darker deities. But I'm just saying the Qliphoth is a very potent way to fully understand the shadow side of the tree and the darker entities, because it's fully composed of all of them. The dangers of the left-hand path are going to be mainly one thing that you want to realize when you start to walk down this path, which is picking up where I left off. It's going to really connect. The way that you're going to start walking the left-hand path is by doing invocations of all of these Qliphothic beings, or all of the infernal beings, the infernal spirits. And what will happen is you will eventually come across the information in the gnosis, if you're serious about it, meaning if you're performing these invocations with the right intention, if you're performing them from the right state of mind, you will be led across a certain type of path working. And that path working will be, it'll be certain experiences, certain challenges, certain circumstances that will cause you to form yourself into the Black Initiate. And there's many different ways that you can do that, but what it's essentially doing is it's forming the black diamond of consciousness, forming the black astral diamond, you could say on your astral body, which attunes you. What that black diamond does is it attunes you to the darker spirits. It attunes you to their energies. And once again, you become a black adept, someone who understands what black magic is and what the purpose of it is. So you're no longer someone that's looking at it as evil. You're no longer someone that doesn't understand it and fights against it. And you know, you have a much wider awareness of how life works in general. Okay? So once again, that's going to come from performing evocations of these Qliphothic beings. Because when you do those evocations, what's happening is those beings are communicating with, for example, let's say you're sitting in the circle and you're calling out to a Qliphothic being, and you're like, I want to achieve the goals that I have in life. I want to reach my purpose. I want to live out my full potential. I want to be the best that I could possibly be. I want to have this in my life. I want to have that in my life. When you sit down and you start doing a meditation like that, and an invocation like that, that being will start communicating with you. And it will agree upon what you're asking. But in order to achieve what it is that you want, you're going to have to go through certain, once again, steps of initiation. You're going to have to go through certain types of path working. And that's where the actual alchemy and the transformation takes place, where you change as a person. But as you change as a person, the things that you want, once you go through the alchemy, will then be yours. Okay? And you will not regret the fact that you went through those path workings, which are not easy path workings by any means. It's a really tough process, and there's many people that try to go through this process and don't make it through all the way because they lose their mind, or they just don't understand. They give up, and they can't handle it. And that's a fact, because once again, this power comes with there is a lot of power in the dark path. It's one of the most ancient paths. So you can imagine how much power is in that. And with great power, if your body is not able to be responsible with that power, or understand that power, or use your wisdom and use your understandings, then that power can cause your own destruction because you didn't know how to use it. And it's not like something that's got to be very scientifical. You just have to allow the power to guide your body. At the end of the day, you just have to be. But, with our egos and with our logical minds, we want to always be in control, and we may have certain ideas on life. And when we start doing that path working, and it starts rearranging those ideas, and it starts rearranging your logic, and it shows you what it's like to be nothing, because during this path working, you'll come into certain stages of dissolution that makes you realize that at the core of your being, it's this dark nothingness, and you're just this spirit that's existing on another plane, and you can perform many different things in this other plane, in the astral. And while you're doing that, it's like you're living in that being that is in another plane. But now your physical body, since you're doing so much work in this other plane, your physical body becomes nothing, because your consciousness has transferred over to that physical being, or over to that astral being. So then your physical feels like you're like in a state of nothingness. So you may feel like you have no purpose physically. And that's only to the conscious mind. That's only to the egotistical side of your thinking. Your animalistic nature will think that. But that's only a part of this alchemical process, is to come to that realization that really, to the core, you are a spirit. Okay, there is a spirit that is you. And the whole process of walking down this clipothic path working and initiation is going to show you how to get in touch with your own spirit, your own daemon, your own divine intelligence that communicates with all the other deities from many other different path workings or many other different pantheons. And that, once again, that spirit communicates with these other deities and then relays the information to you the way that you need to hear it, because that spirit is you. Okay, and once again, when you go down the left-hand path, you're going to come into communion with all the darker divinities, all the darker spirits, all the darker entities. And you're going to realize that they start to give you their favor. You're going to realize that you start to build real relationships with them. And in my path, and what's common for many people that walk this path, they start to realize, like, why are these spirits known to be devils? Why are they known to be evil? Why is that? Because you realize how much they really help you in life if you actually have what it takes to work with them and to just open up yourself to that darkness. They help you a lot. But then you come to the other realization, you understand why people are scared of them, and you understand why people call them evil, because the way that they transform you is through that sense of testing the self. And if you don't know how to go through those tests, and you don't understand what that alchemy is trying to do to yourself, then you may look at that from a very surface perspective as, that's bad, this is not good, this is wrong, this is not okay, this I don't like this because it's not comfortable, right? But to become your best self, you've got to get uncomfortable. Okay, so this is what that path offers. And once again, this is why, and it's like, part of this understanding is to realize not everyone, once again, is going to walk this path, and they're not supposed to. So don't try to convince people to walk down this path. Don't do it. The people that want to walk down this path will make themselves known to you. They'll come to you. They'll be open-minded. They may ask you questions. That's when you can, engage with that person and see if they want to walk down this path. But don't go around trying to convince someone that makes it clear to you that they do not want to walk down this path. You can test it. You can bring the conversation up. But if you feel like people have a defensive barrier to this information and to the darker side of spirituality and magic and things of that nature, don't try to push past that barrier. Just recognize in your mind that's their purpose. Their purpose is meant to be a different polarity. Okay, they have a different perspective, and that's okay. They're supposed to. There needs to be that positive and a negative charge. Not everyone is walking down the darker path. But the truth is, in today's society, there's a lot of people that don't walk down the darker path because they're ignorant. They don't have this information that I'm sharing. And there's people that truly want to walk down this path, and they feel intuitively like it's right for them, but they don't. So once again, taking it back to the moral of this message, what are the dangers that you're going to experience once you finally decide that this path is right for you, and if you're on this path? One of them is that you're going to be confronted by the other side, meaning most people aren't actually walking down the left-hand path and really going through the real path working. So you're going to get a lot of information from people that are Christians, from people that are Catholics, from all different types of religions, and they're going to be constantly feeding you with their belief system that only Christ is the answer, and only this is the answer, and this is what's right, and if you do anything else, you're going to be damned to hell, and all this stuff. You have to build a tolerance and a strength to hearing all of that, okay? Because once again, that's their path. That's where they're at. But when you walk down this path, it's very rare that you come across other people in your day-to-day life that are also walking the left-hand path, that understand the darker side of nature and understand the power, and you could say the power and the guidance that comes from the darker divinities, the darker entities, the darker spirits. Many people don't understand that because of indoctrination. So it's very easy for someone to try or want to initiate through the left-hand path and the darker path based off their desires. Oh, I want to receive power. I want to have a nice car. I'm used to watching all these music videos, and I see all this occult symbolism that shows the darker divinities, the darker spirits, and that. And it's easy to draw a weak person in. And then this person starts to want, let's say this person does invocation. Next thing you know, they're led into a path working, which means they're going to have certain challenges that they're going to have to face. A lot of those challenges, most of those challenges are going to have to do directly with the self. All of those challenges are going to have to do with the self. You just may not realize it. So when you start getting that challenge that is trying to transform something within yourself, it's a tough process, and it can be very negative emotions that are associated with that, like feelings of depression or anxiety or fear or disillusion, which are not comfortable because you feel out of control and you feel like shit. But you have to feel to process, and the more you feel, the more you process, and the more you process, the more you come into liberation, the more you actually understand. And once you have felt those enough, and this is a lonely path as well, so when you walk down this path, the darker path, there's not going to be anybody really walking with you. It's just you. And this path can take years. I've been walking this for about 2 years so far, and it's been a lonely path. Yes, I've met incredible people that have been on their own spiritual journey, and I have met people that are walking down this path, but I didn't meet them. They're not walking with me necessarily. They're not like right next to me. I'm not constantly talking to them on the phone. I go through my experience. Every once in a while, we get in touch and we conversate, and it's insane how close and how similar our experiences have been. But this is a isolated path, and it's like that for a reason. It's supposed to be, because it's a path of understanding thyself. So once again, a lot of people will go down this darker path of initiation, and then as they get to a point where they're like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore because it's not fun, it's not what I thought it would be, all the desires drew me in, but now I don't have any of that. I don't want to do this anymore. And then you have a bunch of Christians that are trying to tell you how to, you know, how to think and what to believe. And a lot of people will go from this side and then buy into that because they're at a state of, they feel like they don't know where they are in life. They feel lost. And that's okay. That's part of the process. Part of this process of dissolution is feeling lost, but you got to stay true. This is where integrity comes in. This is where intention comes in. This is where power of staying still comes in. Knowing who you are in your being, in your spirit, listening. Not always having to look around in the world for the answers, but just listening to what's in. But a lot of people will walk down this darker path and they'll hear a bunch of religious ideas and beliefs and indoctrinations, and then they'll buy into it because they're lonely or they're feeling depressed or they're feeling fear and anxiety, and then they're like, oh, please save me. I don't know what I did. This was wrong. And you see videos of that on YouTube all the time of people that are like, I used to do magic and then Christ saved me. And it, you know, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Just know that when you come across someone that makes a video like that, that this path was too much for them. It was too powerful for them, and they didn't have what it takes to handle that power. There's massive responsibility that comes with this path. So that's one of the dangers you'll face. And then once again, the other dangers are you are going to experience aspects of yourself that you have probably been hiding from for a very long time. So be ready for that. Be ready to come face to face with getting your ego ripped apart by ideas that you thought were you that are really not you. Get ready for that, okay? Get ready for having things be torn away from your life that are not in your best interest. So get ready to let go of certain things that are not in your best interest and be open for receiving better things. Because how can you change your life if you can't change your inside? Because one of the truest principles there is, universal principle, hermetic principle, as within, as without. What is within is what will be created without. When you go through the darker path of initiation, alchemy, transformation, you are changing the within. And you're changing the within by understanding fully the within so you can come into real alignment. Alignment of the darkness. And remember, the light comes from darkness. So just because I'm going through the darker path and I'm aligning myself with the darkness doesn't mean the light is my enemy. It just means it's another aspect, and I can integrate that too, and I have integrated light before I even got into the darker path. That was what I did. I used to think the darker path was evil. So I did all this light work, I did all this stuff, and then sure enough, I come across the darker path, I go on that, and now I'm a balanced being. Now I walk the middle path, the middle pillar, so I understand both. But I have some of my strongest spiritual connections with the darker deities because they are some of the most ancient deities and the ones that have guided me in very profound areas of my life, and I continue to strengthen those connections. So I spend a lot of my time with those deities, and but you know, one of the biggest important things is strengthening the deity within, the spirit that you have within. Connect with that, because that spirit is the middle spirit. That's the spirit that is the mediator between the light and the dark and whatever else there is. It's your own spirit. That's the power. It's in your own daemon, your own divine intelligence. Okay, and that's what all these spirits will eventually lead you to understanding once you've gone through the process, which can be a long process. But once again, these are some of the dangers of the dark path. And then don't walk down the dark path. Don't walk into any path. This goes for anything. Don't walk into any path of initiation ignorantly, thinking like, oh, this is going to be a piece of cake. I'm just going to do this, whatever. It's going to be yada, yada, yada. And then when shit starts getting real, don't turn on that path and start pointing at that path as enemies or as an enemy, as something that was like, oh, this is evil. Excuse me. Oh, this is evil. This is this. This is this. Because then what you're going to do is you're going to invite a lot of harm into your life. You're going to invite a lot of bad luck into your life. You're going to invite a lot of suffering into your life. Okay, this is coming from somebody who has tried to pray against demons. I used to be such a strong Christian before I got into clipothic magic and before I went into the darker sides of life, that I would literally pray against demons. And I'll tell you, my life went to shit when I did that. And it has nothing to do that angels are more powerful than demons or demons are more powerful than angels. It just had to do with I was ignorant and I was doing something so stupid. I was praying to angels that did not want anything to do with stopping demons. The angels I was praying to were probably looking at me like, this fucking idiot. Don't waste your time doing this. You're wasting your time. Look at you. You're praying against demons that are trying to guide you. That's the kind of idea that you want to have, because that's true. And then I'll tell you for sure, my life went to shit shortly after I was doing that. So I've been that person. If you go into a system and you start saying, oh, this system's evil, this is this, just because it was uncomfortable, just because you couldn't handle the power that was in the system, you're inviting yourself to a lot of harm. Because when you initiate into a system, part of your spirit, part of your soul, part of your purpose gets intertwined with that system. So you've already opened a door. So if you open a door and then open up that energy, that current, and then start saying bad things about that current, bad things are now going to open up into your life, because you've already opened that door. You have to continue forward, and you should want to. There's no, like, it's not like a scary thing, like your back's against the wall. You should want to be your best self. Think about what's holding you back. Why are you holding yourself back? Why are you afraid to move forward? What's the worst that could happen? What's the worst thing that could literally happen? Death? If death is what you're scared of, then think about death. Meditate on death. What is so scary about death? Why are you so scared of death? Don't you think maybe you came here for a reason? Don't you think maybe that there's something protecting you that's keeping you here for a reason? But the more you fear death, the more you're shunning that power that's within, that's keeping you safe. The more you fear it, the more you're telling yourself, oh, that power that's keeping me here, which is your highest power, which is your inner divinity, your daemon, the more you're telling it, you're not powerful. Oh, I'm not here for a reason. I could die at any moment. Don't fall into society's trap. That's, you know, you want to recognize your power within. Now, if you pay attention, most people, and I'm going to make a video on this, most people that are like, for example, the celebrities that we've seen recently, like XXX Tentacion, Kobe Bryant, Juice WRLD, all of these people predicted their death because they spoke that on their life. If you studied it, XXX said before he was going to die, he said, I could die. He was speaking that on his life based off an emotion coming from a state of mind that was not his authentic self. He was in a state of mind that was not serving him, and he bought into the idea that from that state of mind, because he was in that state of mind, that's what he was attracting. He was attracting death because that's what he was asking for. But then and while he was in that, he was speaking on his life, I could die. There's a chance I could die. And that became a real idea for him, and he actually believed it and bought into it. That's where he messed up. He really thought he would die. And then he came into his senses. You guys know, if you know about the whole XXX Tentacion, then he became he became someone that wanted to help the community, and his purpose started to align. But even then, he was still bought into the idea that I could die. I think someone's going to try and kill me. He was still saying that. And then sure enough, boom, he created his own reality. As within, as without. Same with Kobe Bryant. If you study Kobe Bryant, he would say, if you study it, if you watch the interviews of what his roommate, like close friends of his said, they said when he was younger in his 20s, he would always say, I want to die young, and I want to die a legend. Literally, that was his words. And they said he didn't say it loosely. He meant it. And he died as a young legend, literally. And then with Juice WRLD, we all saw that with the pills. You know, Juice WRLD, before he just dropped an album, and he literally predicted his death. He said, I'm going to die from the pills. And he had bought into that belief. First of all, he was already in the wrong mindset. The mindset that he was in was telling him, if you continue with this mindset, you will die, because look at the actions you're taking from this mindset. And then he was continuing to believe that mindset, buy into that mindset, and sure enough, he did exactly what he said he was going to do, which was overdose on the pills and die. So your words are very important to be aware of, because that's where your intentions are coming from. That's what your mind's thinking on. So if I'm going around saying like, I'm going to die, or I'm scared of this, or this is wrong, and these people are good, and these people are evil, I got to be careful, because that's what I'm believing. And then I have to ask myself, why am I saying these things? Like, it feels so wrong for me to say that. Like, I got to ask myself, why am I saying these things? Because if that's my inner, then that's reality. So if I'm saying I'm scared, that's coming out through me. I need to check to make sure this is okay. If I actually meant it, I need to make sure this is okay, because I create my reality. I'm God, you're God. We all have that God within. It's our subconscious, unconscious mind. in all of our minds, in our astral body. It goes very deep. We create our reality. If there's a source that is creating all of this, we carry part of that source-like energy in our bodies. If there's an energy that connects everything, we carry that in us. We are that. I am my own universe within itself. My reality is completely different, unique than everybody else's, yet it is still connected to yours. Which means I can interact with you, connect with you, but have a completely different experience than the exact experience you're having. But I can also tap into your experience because I can intertwine realities and we can connect. So you just want to make sure that, you know, what you believe is aligned with what you want. Do you want to die young? Do you want to die? Do you want to live in fear? Do you want to be a victim? Ask yourself that question. If the answer is yes, then continue to speak those things on your life. If the answer is no, watch what you're saying. Watch what you're believing. Change your beliefs. Okay? And that it can start with words. There's many ways to change your beliefs. It can start with words, but I think the most powerful way to change your beliefs is going through a path working, a spiritual system path working. Especially the clip-off, because you're going to get introduced with a lot of negative energies that are going to essentially break you down to a nothingness. Okay, a state of nothingness, a state of like massive disillusion where you feel dead. You feel like, what is the point? And then, but while you're in that state of nothingness, you're actually going to be uncovering tons of truths. You're going to have an awareness on a very spiritual level. So your ego, your identity will be disillusioned, but your spiritual awareness will be extremely heightened. And then you'll be able to absorb tons of awareness that comes through your spirit. And then you really figure out that we are literally a spirit living in a physical body. It's like we are the spirit driving the physical body. And then from that state, you get to create yourself from a whole new perspective, which is the art of going through these path workings. And you get to move through different energies. You got to realize you're a very dynamic being, meaning you could change at any minute, depending on what energy is flowing through your body. And the more that you get used to those energies flowing in your body, the more you get to understand them and realize how they work, how they operate, how they can benefit you, how they don't benefit you, things of that nature. And you get to pick and choose which ones you like more and which ones you don't like. But this is a process, and you only start to integrate and get used to this process by going through this initiatory path working of realizing what you truly are, which is, once again, a path working that can take years. And once again, many people are not on this path, and this is the darker path. Okay, the darker path. The thing with the light path is a lot of that can feed your ego. A lot of that can make you think that beliefs that aren't real are real, and you can fuel that with light. When you walk the darker path, you realize that light comes from darkness, so there is such thing as a false light. Okay, there's such thing as saying like, oh, positive thoughts, I want to help you. For example, I worked with a guy who came from a very false light perspective, and he always wanted to help people. He always wanted to help people, but the thing was, he was helping people from the intention of being looked at as more powerful or better or wiser or to move up in his position. But that's not a real light. That's false light because he's doing it for a approval. He's not doing it because he's like, I'm powerful. So if you looked at his physique, you looked at the way he walked, you would be like, this guy doesn't take care of himself, or this guy doesn't really love himself. But the way he acts is he acts like he does. He acts like, oh, I love myself. I trust me. Like I love life and I want to help everybody that I can and I want to do it for you. But in reality, that's not his truth. That's a false light paradigm. He's really doing it from a selfish place. And what this guy would need to do is integrate more of the darker the darker side of nature, the darker spirits, because he has to realize like, wait a minute, I'm doing this for approval. Let me really start to love myself, because that's not really loving yourself. If you're searching for approval, that's not really loving yourself. If you really love yourself, then you speak from that place from within. You say, I love myself. I love what I've learned. I love the fact that I've earned this position. I love the fact that someone can come to me and I can share this information with them if I feel like it's time for them, or if I feel like they're ready for it. Not everyone's ready for it. And quite frankly, not everyone deserves it. If someone comes at me the wrong way, and they think that they deserve this information at any time, I love myself enough to say, who the fuck do you think you are? Like, I'm not gonna share this with you. Like, you think you earned this from me? You fucking prick, get the fuck away from me. It's just, you know, it's a whole nother perspective. And I don't go walking around like with a fake smile on my face, trying to make people like me. I am me. I act the way I act. I can act from my heart. I want the best for people, but I also understand people. Okay, I understand how people are. I understand how they act, and I know how to, you know, remove someone from my path if I need to. And I know how to use magic. I know how to use darkness to do that as well. I can even use light to do that. But once again, I like when I do my spiritual practices, I feel more connected with the darker side. I feel a lot more connected. And this is just me. When it comes to my spiritual workings, if you know me, if you know my channel, I'm definitely left-hand path. Once again, I'm also right-hand path, but when it comes to my own spiritual practices, I definitely work heavier in the darker path, 100%. Like if I'm gonna do invocation, it's gonna be for the darker spirits, the Qlipothic spirits. The Qliphoth is the system that I find the most power in. Once again, that's, you know, you can find the very similar deities in other systems and other cultures, but I love the Qliphoth. I love all the darker deities. I like the deities that people are afraid of because, you know, they have to, you know, they're going to show you certain things about yourself and you have to literally earn that power. That's one of the reasons why I love it. I love the fact that you have to earn it. Like, in order to have a real relationship with one of these deities, you're going to have to go through some shit. I love that about it. I love that. You're going to have to go through some serious introspection. You're going to have to go through some serious challenges. And you hear all the time people that will say, oh yeah, I invocated this spirit and this. And then based off what they're saying, you can tell they didn't even invocate the spirit. They think they invocated the spirit. But a lot of these people will be like, I invocated the spirit and I did this though, and I'm not sure if the spirit's mad at me. It's like, dude, if you invocated the spirit and you have like a relationship with the spirit, why don't you ask the spirit what you did wrong? Why are you asking me? You know what I mean? Go to the spirit. If you did something wrong, you know you did something wrong. It's in your body. It's in your mind. Like, you can figure that answer out by meditating. Why are you coming to me? That means you didn't even have a relationship with the spirit, because obviously if you did, you would know that. You know what I mean? You would know that you can find that answer out. Okay, so the video just cut off again because I went as long as it allowed me to go. I think that was definitely 30 minutes. So I'm gonna wrap it up here, guys. This is the danger. I definitely shared a lot of information on this video. I'm very glad with what I shared. I think this is the kind of value that you guys want to hear, and I think it's the value that you guys need to hear. So yeah, so if you like the video, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, because I'm posting videos as often as I can. And once again, where you'll be able to find the Patreon is at that very first link in the description. It says My Patreon, so definitely make sure you check that out for exclusive content. The content that I have on my Patreon is taking it to the next level so that you can understand the tree itself. Right now, I'm going over the Sephiroth and I'm going over the different spheres so that you can have an understanding of what that is. And then what I'll be going into after that, I'll be going into the Qliphoth so that you can understand the Qliphothic spheres and the deities and the different polarities between them. So yeah, definitely make sure you check that out. And yeah, I'm definitely glad with this video. I think this is I love making videos like this. I did this whole archetypal series, and I'll be honest with you, it was, you know, I wanted to get over with it because I like, when I make videos, I like having a certain subject and then I can just let it riff on that subject. This is what I do best. But I'm also, once again, I'm also really glad I did the whole archetypal series because I think that offered there's somebody out there that, and multiple people out there that's going to offer a lot of value for. So I'm glad that I put that out there. That's the reason why I stuck with it. But yeah, other than that, go to the second link below. That's going to take you to the Facebook page. On the Facebook community page, you'll see a pin post that says private group. Request to join the private group and I'll add you in. Right now I believe there's like 30 people. It's growing exponentially. Once I get to 50 people, I'm going to be posting consistently. So what I do there is I post content in the form of written and pictorial quotes. So definitely make sure you request to join that and I'll add you in. And once again, other than that, I'm going to wrap it up here. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.